Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha here, and today I want to chat with you guys a little bit about why maxing out or doing one rep maxes is not inherently dangerous. And it's something that virtually anyone can do safely if they are careful about the parameters in which they do it. And when I say that, what do I mean by the parameters in which they do it? Setting proper safeties, right? Because you guys will see me miss a squat in here. And I miss bench presses and stuff sometimes. I miss deadlifts and all their different variations. Use appropriate safeties. Most racks have them. Buy a rack that has them. Get a rack that has them. They certainly exist at most gyms if you're willing to look around. And I'm not a big believer in using spotters. I understand why we do it in powerlifting meets, but that's a powerlifting meet, and I don't see any of you guys with 5 spotters at the gym every time you max out. So I don't believe in spotters at all. So just a heads up on that. When people say, yeah, use spotters. No, that's stupid. Spotters get you hurt. Individual spotters, no. I have no use for them. No use for them at all, other than maybe on rep work taken to failure. Right, 10, 12 rep max taken to failure, that's when a spotter might be useful. Not for anything heavy. If anything, they mess you up. They mess you up. They get you hurt. But safety arms, safety devices, safety straps. Like if you have a full rack instead of the half rack like I'm using, oh man, safety straps. That's all you need. What else is the other parameters? Making sure that you're reasonably technically proficient on an exercise. Making sure that you have a strong core and a strong low back and all that. So people who have trained their low back, trained their abs and everything for a few months, right? If you've been in the gym a few months, and you have very heavily trained all that support musculature. Right? You can't have a weak core. And the core is made up of a lot of muscles, abdominals, obliques, spinal erectors, and a number of other smaller muscles. They fall within subcategories of some of that. So if you have a strong core and you have a decent starting base, no reason you can't max out. I know trainers out there who have their 55-year-old female clients max out, and they're not power lifters. Now, I have an aunt who's in her late 60s who competes in powerlifting. She's never had a training injury. Should tell you something. Maxing out's not inherently dangerous. Now, people will jump up and mention competition. Well, competition is a competition max. You're usually psyched up. You're usually peaked. There's oftentimes illicit substances involved, oftentimes extra stimulants and things involved. That's not a normal max. That's not coming into the gym and just hitting a max. Now, I will say, yeah, it might not be safe to max on a handful of stims. But, sane people don't do that. Sane people don't do that. And usually if you get hurt, it still tends to be from an overuse injury more than anything. So, what is it that we need to be looking for? Well, not having external factors that are going to make you lift more weight, maybe with bad technique, because you've put substances into your body to push yourself up a level. Okay. Making sure that you have a decent base. You don't have a weak core or anything like that where your back is protected. Making sure you have safeties in place. Right? If you do all these things, there's nothing dangerous about maxing out. And again, let's come back over to the point. If you have a nagging overuse injury, that's what tends to get hurt when we max out. And those overuse injuries may not come from your maxing. Those overuse injuries might come from some of your smaller exercises, your supplemental work. And they don't happen in a vacuum. I tore a bicep, gosh, how many years ago? 2004, 16 years ago. Holy shit, 16 years ago I tore a bicep. I saw warning signs 3 weeks before I tore it that I was going to tear it. I saw warning signs for 3 weeks that I was going to tear it. It didn't just happen randomly. Had I not been young and dumb in my 20s, I would have paid attention to the warning signs. How about the fact that something hurts all the time? Oh man, I've got a tendon that hurts. Right, well maybe you shouldn't do all out 1 rep maxes on lifts that will put direct stress on that tendon that's been hurting. Maybe you need to rotate some movements around and let that tendon heal. Okay, but that's an overuse injury, right? Overuse injuries are the leading cause of injuries in the weight room, by the way. Not maxing out, not bad form. Maxing out just happens to be what pushed that overuse injury over the edge, but it was going to happen anyways, wasn't it? But do you guys just see that, by the way? You see me mix that squat? It's not just 300 pounds there, guys. Guess what? Set the safeties correctly, miss the lift, just get out from under it. And I went on and did a full workout. Did a full workout after that. Okay, maxing isn't dangerous. Grinding out rep sets to limit sets and hitting failure. Now that's potentially dangerous. But I want you to stop and think about what you just saw with that max. What happened? I got under a bar. I maintained tightness. I drove as hard as I could while ramping up to, higher and higher weight. And I missed the lift in the middle. Right at my sticking spot, I couldn't generate enough force to drive through those chains. What happened? Like here you saw me drive through that same spot, right on that safety bar squat. I just drove through that spot and locked it out. I couldn't drive through on the other. What did they both have in common? I stayed tight and I stayed within my bar path. And I want people to think about that. There's no fatigue happening. It's just straight up and down. If you can maintain the same bar path on the way up that you did on the eccentric rep, did that weight injure you on the eccentric rep? No. If you went all the way to the full range of motion on an eccentric like that, lowering a weight on any form of squat or bench or anything else, right? You lowered it down to that point, and then you press or push or squat. What happens? You hit a sticking point, and if you can keep it in the same bar path you kept it on the way down, how's it going to hurt you? You just lowered that same weight through that same bar path. That didn't hurt you. It didn't hurt, right? So why is failing it and just hitting the safeties an inch lower going to matter? And usually on a bench, it just knocks our arch out. But notice how close I set my safeties on any of those squats. Right? I set about an inch. Why? Because we just go straight down. We go straight down. Now what happens if you do a 3-rep max or a 5-rep max and miss it? You start getting fatigued. Your bar path starts drifting. Right? When we miss a third, a fourth, or a fifth, especially like a fourth or a fifth rep on a squat, what happens? Do we go straight down? No, we're fatigued. We get more and more forward lean. We get more and more forward lean. We don't go straight down. We get pulled forward. We get pulled into a position that puts more shear on our spine than we would have gotten otherwise. More shear than it was subjected to on any of the eccentrics. That's when you pull something in your back. How about on the bench pressing? Right? We just go straight up. We keep it that low on the position chest. What happens when we start getting fatigued? The bar starts drifting further and further over our face with every rep. So this looks fine here, right? Mention that against bands. Straight up, lock it. Now, if you do that and you start grinding on the 3rd rep, 4th rep, the bar drifts further and further forward. You get out of your bar path. Then if you miss the 5th rep, what happens? It slams down 4 inches, 5 inches further up your chest into a position to where you can maybe injure a rotator cuff, maybe even tear a pectoral. But that won't happen through your normal bar path. You're used to lowering the heavy weight through it. It's failing rep work that's dangerous. Not maxes that's dangerous. Your only issue under a max is fear of getting squished under the weight. That's why we have safeties. And before people jump up and say, well, you can learn to bail on a squat, I don't recommend you do that unless you're going to be an Olympic lifter. That carries its own set of risks, and you should never compete in powerlifting if you train that way, because you're going to hurt your spotters, because you're going to fall back to that instinct. It's not a good habit to have. Unless you train specifically for weightlifting in a weightlifting gym where everyone knows not to get behind somebody who's doing a squat because they know you're going to throw it behind you. Okay? Different sport. But otherwise, just use safety arms. Maintain tightness. Don't try fatiguing really heavy reps. Don't go for a 1 rep max and say, I can do a double, because that's when you get hurt. Hitting a PR and say, I've got another rep, and you go for a 2nd rep without taking a 5-minute break. What happens? That's when you get hurt. It's not maxing that's dangerous. Alright guys, well that's really all I have to say on that today. I hope it's been informative, and I will talk to you guys next time.